The president's institution and the majority clashed with the Venice Commission, commenting, "I am ready to leave them half of my presidential office." The Democratic Party presents new proposals against electoral crime to ensure a level playing field for all voters. Employees of the Pocem electric substation in Malakastra have launched a hunger strike for the unpaid 27 salaries and backup insurance. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 13th of February, 2020. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to the English edition of Ora News. My name is Christopher, bringing you the only update of the local Albanian news translated into English. Two people in the underworld will need to complete asset declarations. According to police, they are Orges Yalezi, a resident in Tirana who was sentenced by the Tirana Court of First Instance for serious crimes for the offense of trafficking narcotics; Paitim Seriani, a resident of Tirana, after the Tirana Judicial District sentenced him for the criminal offense of coercion through intimidation or violence for giving property. These individuals subject to the special law must respond in writing within 48 hours to all of the OFL inquiries. Subsequently, responses received will be sent to SPAC for further action, the police said. In fulfillment of the duties set out in the Normative Act, the OFL states that it continues to do so in close cooperation with local police directorates in the districts carrying out complex actions to identify and send to SPAC all persons subject to the special law. Within 6 months, 3 delegations of the Venice Commission have visited Tirana to gather facts on issues that have clashed with the president's institution and the majority. This fact was also noticed by the head of state, Ilir Meta, during the meeting with the representatives of Venice, who was willing to offer half of his presidential office. "I'm ready to leave half of the presidency to the Venice Commission, as Venice is constant a visitor," Meta said before answering the questions of the closed-door fact-finding mission. He delivered a speech before the media clarifying to foreign officials that appointments to the Constitution are well explained. With the motto "calmness and love," the president showed why he was obliged to send a letter to Venice on the Constitution. Earlier, the delegation also received responses from the head of the Assembly and representatives of the Inquiry Commission regarding President Meta's decree on Constitutional Court member Marcida Jafirlari and Arta Vorpsi's refusal to swear in. The Democratic Party has presented proposals against electoral crime. The 3 DP representatives for electoral reform, Ord Bulukbashi, Ivi Kaso, and Enkeled Alibey, provided details of these proposals. Bulukbashi, Kaso, and Alibey said it is important to separate politics from crime and to guarantee democratic standards in elections, and that with only a caretaker government, that the goal to ensure a level playing field for all election stakeholders can be ensured. The main issues are a new active role of the prosecutor's office and the state police in preventing electoral crime are first by strengthening the instruments that the law enforcement agencies will have in hand. There will need to be a strong control framework built that will not be able to allow the government, and there needs also to be an important role to give to the other instruments in hand of voters as a major factor in denouncing and punishing electoral crime. One of the key elements that the OSCE ODIHR highlights in several reports are vote buying in 2015, 17, and 19, since there is pressure on voters who are employees of the administration, thus violating the secrecy and freedom of their vote. The purpose of our proposals is to address exactly these phenomena, either by preventing them or criminally punish them in order to increase confidence not only in the process but also in the legitimacy of the election bodies. Ivo Caso clarified the introduction of the notion of whistleblowers who would help condemn vote buying. Introducing the notion of whistleblowers in terms of administrative violations and offenses in the field of elections would go in line with the existing legislation that we have seen in 2006 and that was amended in 2016. It is not an unfounded notion that in the current legal framework, rather it is a novelty of proposing this notion for election-related offenses. We have proposed as draft amendments the addition of 2 articles to the Electoral Code. Signifiers are traditionally the part of voters who have been identified as voters of opposing or neutral subjects and are particularly pressured by the entities in power. Because of the insult or pressure in the face of the proposed bribe, they have an internal disposition to denounce if they are to be provided with a legal framework that provides them with the protection of guarantees of continuity concerning employment or certain criminal offenses. So our 2 proposals are for adding 2 articles to the Electoral Code. Article 108A provides for the introduction of the concept of whistleblowers, and Article 108B deals more broadly with the protection afforded to whistleblowers, both administratively and by the prosecution. In this manner, we may have the maximum freedom to denounce any phenomenon of vote buying. Alibea clarified the four main directives that are based on the legal draft positions. First, the biggest voter protector is the citizen. Secondly, the citizen should be given instruments in hand to protect their vote. Third, the law enforcement agencies will have to protect the vote by applying the law. And police do not have to remove their hat to vote for the government. The policeman must wear the hat on his head, but also maintain the law in his hand. Fourth, the violation of legal obligations by state institutions will have to lead to invalidation of the elections. The relationship between customs and business in Albania for 2020 has been in the spotlight during today's meeting of the American Chamber of Commerce. In his address, President of the American Chamber of Commerce, Ennio Iaccia, singled out the reference list issue that has been improved but should be removed as a matter of practice. The American Chamber of Commerce has requested a review of the form of reevaluation of goods. Considering the setting of reference prices as an old way of doing business, Ennio Iaccia emphasized that it is now time to change, although he has noticed improvement over the years. I would like to highlight one issue that has impressed me, that of the reference list, one of the issues that has received improvements over time. It is time for this law and to be practiced and for this practice to be eliminated. It is completely inaccurate and primitive. It does some kind of justice that is incorrect. It does not serve the sophisticated level to apply for businesses, Ennio Iaccia said. For the Director of Customs, John Bardi, there is an increase in transparency and a reduction in the value of goods being reassessed every year. The percentage of evaluable items according to available data was 19.07% for the Customs Administration in 2013, and this figure in 2019 has been reduced to 9%. There will be a more up-to-date system year after year. At the roundtable discussions, the chair of the U.S. House Tax and Customs Committee, Alketa Urucci, warned that in many cases, the last option in reevaluating products is preferable to customs. I would think it would be a great idea if the Customs Administration forces every customs officer to give us an assessment that also makes the arguments why the other methods are not applied and why they go straight to the sixth method, which is the latter method of the reference prices. Removing reference prices is actually a requirement that businesses have been seeking for more than 20 years. The General Director of Customs, John Bardi, meanwhile said that 2019 was very difficult for both the business climate and the Customs Administration itself. Employees of the Pochem electric substation in Malakastra have launched a hunger strike for the unpaid 27 salaries and backup insurance. They say they were forced to take this extreme action because of the authorities' negligence. Meanwhile, oilmen say they will be forced into the Balch plant. Today, we are on a hunger strike for this reason, for the right to our wages. They say that this extreme step has been announced to all the authorities that did not react, so now they warned that there is no turning back until the problems are resolved. What we will negotiate with is the compensation of our back salaries and nothing less. We are not begging, we are simply asking for our sweat's worth. Meanwhile, oilmen have warned that they will be forced into the oil refinery in case state institutions and private firms fail to provide a solution to the backlog of wages by next weekend. Next week, we will take courage and step into the plant. There are more than 850 oil tanker employees of the substation pumping and firefighting subordinates to the Balch plant that have not been paid for several months for their service. The private company managing the refinery says it has suspended work due to a lack of crude oil from Bankers Petroleum. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and good night.